What is Elk Wealth Nation? It is Carmen and Darius here. Are you sick of hearing all of our stories of infinite banking and our journey? Well, today we have a special treat for you. We have one of our clients who has become a great friend of ours, and he is going to be sharing all about his journey from understanding the concept to getting a policy.
Right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to jump right into it and have Mr. Sigismund introduce himself to the Wealth Nation audience.
Hello, Wealth Nation. My name is Sigismund Nichols. I am from Washington, D.C. I'm 34 years old, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sigismund, for being here with us. We have been talking about doing this interview for over a month now. So I'm just excited that we are finally together and that we are able to talk about your journey. So like Darius said, we're going to jump right into it, not going to waste any time. Let's talk about what influenced you to even start thinking about financial freedom in the first place.
Right. Yeah. Like, how did you even search it on YouTube to even get to the point of working with us? What was going through your mind at the time?
It really started when my brother, for years, has been wanting me to read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And one of the things that frustrated me was the fact that overall, like my family, etc., we didn't have a lot of assets. And I just started questioning a lot of it. And I was like, well, what's going on? What are we not doing? Why are we not at this point? Because we came here for opportunity. Why aren't we at that opportunity? So my brother flat out told me, he said, read Rich Dad Poor Dad and then we'll talk. And I read that book from beginning to end, and I was unplugged. What I didn't know was that my sister and my brother both knew about the infinite banking concept, but it was my sister who told me, man, you gotta follow these people on YouTube called Wealth Nation, man. They releasing everything. I said, Wealth Nation, well, okay, I'll give it a try. And I went on YouTube. I watched the 10-part series that you all had about Wealth Nation, and I was hooked. The very first thing I did was I purchased Nelson Nash's book, The Infinite Banking Concept, and I read that from beginning to end, and I just kept reading the book. And out of all that, the biggest reason why was I felt like I was a slave to the financial banks. So long story short, the biggest reason why I got involved in infinite banking was because I felt like I was a slave to the banks, whether that means your credit card, your mortgage, your car loans, all of those things. I said, something isn't right. There's got to be something to this. There's got to be a way to where we're not being subject to interest or having our credit scores jacked up or anything of that nature. What can we do to actually create wealth within your family circle? Mm-hmm. And when I saw the breakdown of how this concept works, especially that it's a long-term process, it's a life-altering, life-changing process, I said, sign me up.
Yeah, I would have to say, as far as our clients go, like from the beginning, you were always on fire. I remember our first client meeting with you, you were just like, whoa! Like I'm trying to I got to get this thing going. And then even till then, you've been such a great steward in the banking process because, I mean, for those of you who don't know, we have regular meetings with our clients, and Sigismund is always on our calendar because he's always like, what about this? What about this? You've always been super inquisitive, which is something that we appreciate because I think the one thing that you really understood from the beginning where the policy is just the starting point. And so, you have to keep educating yourself and you have to keep challenging yourself in order to really maximize your efforts. So one thing that I would say with the Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, what were some takeaways that really made you feel unplugged?
First and foremost, I think, it's been a while since I read it again. Obviously, I don't mind reading it again, but what he was just talking about, how the rich create wealth, assets and liabilities. Like, you can almost say his favorite line is, giving the definition of an asset, that money, something that allows money to come into your pocket, or just the concept of if you want to be an entrepreneur, you can't think like an employee, because an employee would just have a safety net, in this case being a job. You know, I remember another video in relation to Rich Dad Poor Dad where he basically said, if you really think about it, entrepreneurs work for nothing.
Yeah.
You see, they work for nothing. So they're going out there with a hope and a prayer that the idea that they have in their mind can work to the point where they become successful for it. And if you really look at it, that's, in my opinion, that's what this country is about. Coming to this country with an idea that could work. How they say that America is the land of opportunity. That's what I believe entrepreneurs who come to America are searching for. Opportunity. When they come to this country, they're seeking opportunity.
Exactly. Now, when you keep talking about when people come to this country, tell us a little bit more about your background, because I know that you have so many brothers and sisters out there who could be inspired by your story.
Yes. I was born here. My brother was born here. My sister was born here. So we're first generation born in America. My family came to this country in 1972 from Sierra Leone, West Africa. My parents had a dream. They wanted to seek opportunity. My mom, she went to Howard University. My dad went to Howard University. My uncle went to Howard University. Quite a few other people went to Howard University. I was smart enough to go to Hampton University.
Don't get started on them rivalries.
I was smart enough to go to Hampton University, but you know, for them, like when they came here, it was just about opportunity. You know, they came here seeking that opportunity. They came here seeing what they can do to create a living for themselves, and they pursued it with all their heart. And then more importantly, they put themselves in a position where they did their best to provide for us, for my brother and my sister. And now we're getting to that point where we can be in a position to provide for them in their time of need. And that's very encouraging for me to keep going in this venture, in infinite banking, in entrepreneurship. It's just really humbling and amazing to be a part of, because the weight of that understanding, that wisdom is just incredible.
Yeah, and there's one thing that I really enjoyed that you said, or a key word that I took from what you said, is create. What you're doing, you said you want to create a life or create a lifestyle, and you're able to do that by controlling it through your entrepreneurship experience and through the creating your own banking system. Because if we go back to the very first thing that you said about you feel like a slave to the banks, well, it's because you are. If you really think about what a slave is, that means that they are working for someone else and someone else is benefiting from that. So when it comes to our relationship with banks, a lot of times we go to our jobs and we work, but then when we get that paycheck every 2 weeks, it goes to the bank for our bills. And what exactly is that? That's a different type of slavery, but it still is slavery when somebody else gets all the money that you work for. So it's huge in what you were saying about creating a lifestyle or creating a life. And you do that by taking control of your finances and the way you go about making money. And I really appreciate that in your story and with you, because you want to learn. So tell me about the experience going from a thought to actually getting your first policy and getting your first policy loan.
Oh man. It was so many emotions, because you're reading it and you're getting all that wisdom, but then you got to put it to work, and you're like, am I really doing this? and I can say, first and foremost, you know, Carmen and Darius, you all are amazing. You all were very understanding with me. Whenever you felt like I wasn't understanding with something, you just allowed me to gather the thoughts, or you just wanted to make sure what I was trying to explain was accurate. And then more importantly, you all walked me through how it works. That's one of the things that I really loved about going through the policy process. You all allowed me to see what you're going to be doing every month, every year, breaking down a death benefit, breaking down your paid up additions, how that's going to reflect your policy, the cash value you have access to. I really love and appreciate that you all were educated and knowledgeable to break those things down. So when it came time to go through the process, just the screening, just making sure that you're in good health, because at the end of the day, the vehicle that we're using is life insurance. So they want to make sure, are you insurable? You know, so, you know, just that process wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And it was really straightforward. And we had blood work, and then filling out the application, a few mailing things here and there, but nothing that was laborious or time consuming. And lo and behold, policies improved.
Well, thank you for going through that. And also thank you so much for the love. I mean, if anything for us, we realize that it's an educational process. And I know when we were in the same shoes as you, we were just as overwhelmed, just as scared, and just as confused of what are we getting ourselves into. And then we got to give blood on top of that. So I think if anything, you did so great throughout this whole process. So, so when we talk about the policy in general, like what made you actually call us up and say, all right, Carmen and Darius, I'm ready to get started?
My debts. You know, what's really amazing is, and I'll say this in a positive way, there are a lot of debt relief solutions, trainings and programs that are out there that work. And we say that because what I like and appreciate that you all are doing, you all are saying these are all great training solutions. But if you use your vehicle of life insurance, you can recapture more. You see? So the one that's the biggest one that's in a big example, and I went through his course also, is Dave Ramsey and Financial Peace University, understanding the snowball effect, things like that. What I liked was that you all said, yeah, the snowball effect works, but if you were to do the snowball effect through your life insurance policy, you can recapture a whole lot more. And that's where I can say I didn't want to be a slave to the banks. I didn't want to give banks all that interest. As far as I'm concerned, this is just me, as far as I'm concerned, if the bank says I owe this amount because they charge me interest, that's what they're going to get. They're not going to get anything more or anything less, because I am the employee. I am the worker. They don't need more of my money. They will get what's due to them. But in the meantime, I will begin the process of recapturing what's owed to me.
There you go.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
I got chills. Yes. Your check's in the mail, so just don't worry. Okay, perfect. Well, I mean, I'm so glad that you said that. You know, of course, we're Dave Ramsey graduates as well of Financial Peace University.
Absolutely.
And you said it beautifully. We both got to the point where it was like, okay, snowballing is amazing. Dave Ramsey helped us get out of debt, but we recognized our mindset was still not right, and we got back into debt. And then finding infinite banking allowed us to then relieve ourselves again with debt. And it's a completely different process.
Right. It's kind of like the difference between a diet and a lifestyle.
Oh, true.
Yeah. A diet, you'll be on that program for a certain period of time, but then when you get to where you want to be, you kind of go back to doing some of the same things that you were doing, which got you into trouble in the first place.
You sneak into a few more cheat days.
Exactly. Now, when you have a lifestyle change and you have a process of doing something, then you don't change that. You create a habit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really the difference between Dave Ramsey and what we're doing now, I think.
I agree. All right. So the next question, right? So we talked about your journey of getting the policy. You're like, it's not all that bad. You enjoyed the education piece of it. So your policy comes in the mail. Tell me about that.
Oh man, that was like, hey, what's this? I got my policy. You know, when I got the policy in the mail, I saw all the instructions. And I had my policy close by, and you know they always say look at your policy carefully, and I could say that I glanced at my policy carefully because you know I was like, and I'll be the first to say that the way you all taught and coached me and the way I was looking at it and reading it, life insurance is the vehicle. The concept is what we're trying to practice here. And it's important to look at your policy. Mm-hmm. And again, going back to what I said earlier, the fact that you all are able to break down how it's structured, what I'll be paying, and what the eventual the possible turnout will be with my policy, it made it a lot easier for me to understand. And once I got that policy, I said, okay, let's go. And we got it going. One of the biggest reasons why I had the confidence in starting it is because, going back to Rich Dad Poor Dad, which was his biggest theme in that book, and other books have mentioned that, is I paid myself first. If I understand what it means to pay myself first, then I can understand how to put this concept to work. If I don't pay myself first, this is not going to work for me. If you don't pay yourself first, it's not going to work for you.
Oof, man, let the church say amen. Make the congregation hear. That is what we try to hammer home all day long, because so many people just get so in the weeds of the policy. And it's like, homie, how much money you got in your bank? Right. How much are you saving every single month? Let's go there first, because it's a process. Exactly. And like Darius said, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle.
Right. And as we talk about the vehicle of using the policy, we use the policy to get loans. Mm-hmm. Tell me about getting your first loan and what exactly did you do with it?
Getting my first loan, I said, okay, it's time to start this thing. So I called y'all up and I said, okay, I want to do this now. So I saw an email and I saw a request. And within like 5 days, I said, hey, here's a check. I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do with it? And I see this amount that I put in, and I'm like, okay, this is really happening. And the very first thing I did, I deposited into my bank account, and the objective, which I mentioned earlier, is to begin the snowball effect. Mm-hmm. I began the process of paying off my lowest credit card, and it took a substantial amount off the debt. And once I did that, the money that was due to that credit card company, I put in my segregated bank account, and it is sitting there. And I'm amazed that it's actually there. And I said, wow, I actually did it.
Yes, that is so exciting. So how hard was this on a scale of 1 to 10? How hard and painful was this process?
Right. It was one of the easiest things I've done. From a scale of 1 to 10, it was definitely a 1. It was incredible to do. It was incredible to witness the fact that I'm fortunate and blessed to be able to pay a large chunk on my first credit card debt. My first credit card debt, and to be able to take my money and put that into a segregated account, because what I realized was, wait, that's my money. Mm-hmm. So I went into my budget and realized I actually have an extra amount of money to use. Mm-hmm. It's mine. And I was like, it was very gratifying. But what was even more amazing was the fact that because it's a loan, the money that I'm putting into my policy, it's actually growing. To be able to just put my money into a segregated account, and now it's sitting there in case I have an emergency. Not to ramble too long, but that's one of the other reasons why I like this concept, because now it's money that's not tied to any bank.
Freedom.
It's tied to me and my interest that I will pay, not the bank's interest. It's tied to my interest.
That is
fantastic.
And
that's the biggest discipline you have to have on infinite banking. If you want to become a banker, then that means you got to get used to the word called interest. But just understand that's interest you are paying yourself.
Man, Sajisman. Whew! You have such a way of communicating this that we are so appreciative of, because again, like we said, we're on YouTube all the time talking about infinite banking. So it's really nice to have a different perspective.
Right.
And the way that you break everything down is just so beautifully. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I really like the fact that you came from rich dad, poor dad. You have a business, you have policies, you have different experiences as far as your family coming to the country. Like, everything about your story is really, really good, and a really good perspective on how you came about working with us and the concept.
Yes, I totally agree. So we want to be respectful of your time, sir. So we'll just ask one more question.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Sure.
is, what advice would you give somebody who is starting to do the research, thinking about a policy, starting to entertain it? What would you say to that individual?
Well, first, I would say you're actually on the right track. It's very important to gain wisdom. You know, I come from a mindset, which I'm not afraid to share, which says wisdom cries out in the streets. And it also says, in all you're getting, get understanding. So you have to get the wisdom necessary to do this. You know, there's a company that Carmen and Darius, as well as myself, are learning from, where they have a theme of, if you run with the herd, you're going to get slaughtered. You are now going on a journey to go against the herd or against the grain or anything of that nature that everybody's operating against. When you do something like that, you're going to face resistance because they want you to go in the direction that everybody should be going.
Preach.
So because of that, it's going to challenge what you're thinking. It's going to challenge your wisdom. It's going to challenge your knowledge. So if you're learning the way you are learning, that means you really are on the right track. You really are on the process of growth and becoming your own banker. Because keep this in mind too, whether if you're a young person, the biggest thing you can say is, you know what, I'm getting ready to create a legacy. If you're an older person, you're not dying yet, you are still alive. So you know what, I'm going to make sure I create a legacy so that when I'm gone, they will understand what's going on out here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, you do not have to be a slave to these banks. Okay? I know a lot of people, we mentioned the snowball effect. I have a great deal of respect for people wanting to double up their payments or anything like that just to get rid of that debt. But just think about this for a second. You're doubling up the payments. Don't you think you could have used that money for something else?
Whew.
Don't you think that you could have put yourself in a position where, okay, yes, if you make the minimum payment, but if you make the other payment in a life insurance policy, you're covered. And then eventually you can take out a loan and buy back that debt? It's just a thought.
Genius.
It's just a thought.
Genius.
It's just a thought.
Man, I wonder where you learned all this amazing information from. You got a course to just
I'll put it like this. If you don't get what's going on, if you don't own your own lifestyle, I will.
There we go. There we go. That is a perfect transition. I love that. Is there anything else you want to share with us, Mr. Sigismund?
Man, I can't tell you how humbling it is to have you two in my life, because it's one of those where when I was going through that journey of trying to figure out, or basically saying something isn't right, like I just said, who can I connect with? And at that time, there were a lot of other options. There were other people talking about this concept or in different ways, but I still had questions about it. One of the biggest things I love is the fact that you all never forced anything on me. You all wanted to get to know me. You all wanted to connect with me. You all weren't looking necessarily for me to just become the client. You wanted to make sure that I understood what I was getting into. And that's one of the things that I'm appreciative of now more than ever. People getting vetted. So for anybody that has a desire to get into certain things, I would encourage anybody, go through a vetting process. Think about how serious, or the dedication or the time, energy, and effort it takes for you to do something like this, because this is a game changer. This information age is allowing people to gain access of ways to become financially free without becoming a slave to the banks, or in most cases, leveraging the banks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, I just can't thank you all enough for just taking that bold step of just going out there and more importantly, taking the lumps, learning everything, realizing the adjustments you had to make. Because honestly, if you all did not do that, I wouldn't be here. My beautiful wife, Yoli, who's over there, and I got to give a shout out to her because she's on YouTube, so the whole world knows that she's Yoli Nichols. You can follow her on Instagram at BFaceAss. I got to do it. I'm sorry, you can edit that out later.
No,
Yeah, we'll put her in the description. We'll put all your links in the description. No worries.
I got to. But
who's also in the process of policy.
Yes, she is also in the process of the policy. Even my mother-in-law, hi mom, she's in the process of the policy. My sister, shout out to Chinoa and Letitia. Hey, they are in their respective processes. But look what's happening now. A generation is coming into form in terms of creating wealth. And they understand that it takes work. I'm gonna leave y'all with this proverb. Lazy hands make a man poor, but diligent hands bring wealth.
Man, drop the mic.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have for you guys, ladies and gentlemen. We'll bring Mr. Sigismund Nichols on another time so we can get some more of his wisdom.
There we go, man. We're going to have you on quarterly because the information that you shared and the way you went about how you put your words together really touched me, and I know the information. So
I was like, wait, that's a good one. I mean, right on now.
So Sigismund, thank you so much. Not just for being our client, not just for doing this interview, but just for being a friend and being you. We really appreciate you, and we really appreciate you sharing some of your time with us today, because time is something that we will never get back. And the past few minutes that we spent with you was amazing. Thank you.
Yes, and we're just so excited for the value that you've provided to us today, and for everyone else who's going to be watching this video. There's so much value here. I hope that you all understood and learned from Mr. Sigismund today and are able to take some of these tools back with you in your home this evening. So with that said, Sigismund, do you want to do the honors?
Yes, this is Sigismund Nichols and Wealth Nation telling you to own your own lifestyle, or else I will. Own your own lifestyle.
Or we will. We all will. Love it. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much, Sigismund, for your time. And we will catch you on the next video.